let's also dive in and talk a little about positioning, or rather, comparable positioning using the knowledge panel. For instance, when you search for HubSpot, you see a knowledge panel on the right side of your search results, and the bottommost section of the panel says people also search for, and then it lists companies like Marketo, Salesforce, Mailchimp, or the set of companies that Google thinks that HubSpot is competing with,
Mm.
or lookalike companies. So my question is this: can someone position themselves using the knowledge panel? I mean, can you suggest to Google, or maybe influence Google to say that you're competing with A, B, or C entities?
Yes, you can, is the answer. But the question is not necessarily competing with, it's associated with.
Right, right.
So it could potentially be a competitor, but it could also be a subsidiary. I mean, it could be anything that is closely related. It tends to be, as you rightly say, competitors or associated entities for people like us, the people, our peers. So you will tend to see that. But my example that we discussed beforehand was that 8 months ago, those people also searched for my personal brand, Jason Barnard, was my mother and a friend of mine and my sister and a guy I made cartoons with in the noughties. And fair enough, they're very close relationships. And interesting enough, it says people also search for it, doesn't mean that people also search for this other entity in the same um, breath as they search for your entity. It just means these are entities that we have recognized that people search for that happen to be related to you. And the example that I give is my mother, for example, who is an entity in the Google Knowledge Graph, but nobody ever searches for her and me in the same breath or in the same session or even in the same month or the same year because we have completely different names and nobody knows she's my mother. So Google isn't saying we actually search for these two entities in tandem. It's saying